Hey guys, welcome to the Janus Project. Just touching base with you. And what I'm going to ask before you watch this video, if you can hit this video with a like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, if I can ask you to do that, head on down to the corner, hit the subscribe button, and then hit that little bell icon. I'm trying to update this channel about once every week. Some weeks we have more than one. Other weeks when I'm really busy, we don't get an update. But I'm going to ask you guys, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit that little bell icon, and if you know someone who would be helped by this material, please share this with a friend, and I'm going to ask you just to help me build the channel this way. And I've appreciated the help you guys have given me so far. If there's a topic you want me to cover, or if I referenced a topic in a previous video and I just haven't gotten around to it yet, just leave a comment there in the comment section, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Guys, thank you very much, and on with the video. Welcome to the Janus Project. Please be sure to like and subscribe, comment on this video. Learning more and more about the YouTube algorithm. The more that people comment, the more this video shows up and things like that. So if you are a first-time listener, if you are a long-time listener to this broadcast, I'm going to ask you to leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what topics you want covered. And just leave questions, comments, anything like that. I will interact with you in the comments. And so I'm going to ask you to do that. If you would, hit like, subscribe, comment, and again, hit that little bell icon if you're subscribed. It'll let you know every time I upload. I do it about once a week, and I'm going to let you know today a little bit about what we've got coming up in the next few weeks. And I've got some ideas, and I've got some things I'm going to play around with, and I think you'll like it. If you are a believer, as in a Christian, this is going to be some helpful stuff for you. If you are not a believer, I want you to kind of see the logic of the Christian faith, and I want to answer some of the doubts and the questions and the skepticisms that come. I interact with a lot of people, Christians and non-Christians alike, and I've had some really good conversations in the last few weeks. One of them ties in directly with Ecclesiastes, which is a series I'm trying to get off the ground if I can get the audio working properly. The other one has to do with just Christianity in general. There's some amazing stuff there. And so again, we're testing out some new tech. Got some new stuff on the way for you today and coming up in the next few weeks. And so again, like, subscribe, comment on this video, and we'll see you. This is the Janus Project. So welcome back to the Janus Project. We are almost, a little spider like dropping right down. This is why it's great to record in a shed that you hardly ever go in, because there's all sorts of life. I don't dare leave cups in here because they get infected. Anyway, so welcome to the Janus Project, and we are going to cover a week's worth of creation topics. I'm just going to call this series Creation Week. And it may come out, one after the other as I can get these videos up. I've got internet that runs on a potato, and so it is really bad. But I do want to cover this series. And to get started, I'm going to turn the heat off. And so if you see me bundle myself up partway through this discussion, it's because it's getting really cold, and I'm stupid and decided to wear just a t-shirt. So what we're going to do is we're going to start what's called Creation Week. Now, obviously, it's a play on words because, the Creation Week. But what I want to do is I want to get into a lot of topics that deal with creation. And I'm doing this as a review of the Bill Nye book, Undeniable. Now, a little bit of background just so you guys are all on the same page. Several years ago, back when I was a teacher in high school, a high school teacher, I guess would be the better way to phrase that, Bill Nye and Ken Ham. Now, you're probably familiar with both those names. If you're not, let me introduce you to him. Bill Nye was a guy known for Bill Nye the Science Guy. He was basically my science teacher growing up. Just very well-known science program. And so Bill Nye was one of those guys who I watched as a kid, loved as a kid, and he fell off the radar. I didn't know much about him, and then later he came out and he's very much pro-evolution, anti-creation, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, not surprising, but I didn't know. And so Bill Nye, like I said, vanished for a while, popped back up. That's Bill Nye. Ken Ham is an Australian, or I guess he's got dual citizenship probably, but he's from Australia, so he's got the very distinct accent, and he is the president, I believe, or CEO, whatever word it is, of Answers in Genesis, specifically the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter, which are two big old museums there in Kentucky. Back about, oh boy, we're going on 6-7 years ago now. It's been a long time. He and Bill Nye had a debate. Now, the debate was on whether creation was a viable alternative to evolution. And Bill Nye gets into some of this in his book. Ken Ham gets into some of this in his book. And what happened is they spent about 3 hours or more. I mean, it was a big, long debate. It was really good, in my opinion. I like that stuff. But it was a really long debate talking about creation, evolution, age of the earth, evidence for creation, evidence for evolution. Took some question answer. If you watch the debate, Ken Ham was very polished. He had extremely sharp visuals, really, in my opinion, good information. Bill Nye came, didn't really look like he had spent a lot of time on his PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. There were a lot of illustrations he used that I knew enough about that I was like, oh, that's not really good, not great. And what happened was they went back and forth. And as with any debate, if you've ever watched a debate, there wasn't a whole lot of results. There wasn't. Neither guy got their mind changed. But that's not the point of a debate. The point of a debate is to present your information in such a way that the audience will come away, hopefully at least learning something, but maybe being convinced. And so you come away from that debate. I looked at it and said, I think Ken Ham wins, pretty much hands down. He answered questions. He rebutted statements. Bill Nye, I think, just pandered. I know there's a lot of people who would be like, no, Bill Nye won. But I think he pandered to the audience. He played the my good Kentucky people. He kind of talked down to them a little bit, was a little bit condescending. And he kept playing this, science education. And if we ignore evolution, then we're going to ignore scientific progress. And he just kept going on that shtick. And so it was a little frustrating. There wasn't a whole lot of good that came out of it in that regard. When I go into a debate, I really want to see one side presenting stuff that I haven't heard before. I really want to see the two sides answering each other. For instance, there were times where Bill Nye would ask a question, and Ken Ham came out and he's like, well, I've got a book. And I mean, it was clever, but it didn't really help with the issue. And just so you know, from a Christian perspective, yes, the Bible is our final answer. But there are times where you have to give a reason for why you believe what you do, which Ken Ham did, admittedly. But I looked at it and I was kind of like, just saying the Bible says so. That's not really going to convince people scientifically. If this is a scientific debate, saying the Bible says so isn't exactly what they're looking to hear. Sometimes that's what you got to say. Just to be true. I mean, just to be honest, we're doing Christian theology for systematic theology for non-Christians. There are times where you just have to say, this is what the Bible says. You can like it or lump it, but this is what we Christians believe. This is just the way it is. And that's standard. That's what you're going to have to do. So Ken Ham, Bill Nye, they debated. You can go watch the debate. They had another sort of debate when Bill Nye came to visit the Ark Encounter. And so they've kind of had two debates. After the first debate, both parties released books. I got the Bill Nye one way back in the day. He had really good information. He had the entire transcript of the debate, and he answered Bill Nye's points point for point. So if you want a response point for everything Bill Nye said, as well as all the evidence and all the reasons for it, go get Ken Ham's book. It's an excellent resource, has the entire transcript of the debate, has all the question answers, has all the stuff that they weren't able to get to in the debate because either they forgot or they ran out of time, or it's, sometimes hard to phrase things in 2 or 3 minutes. This introduction has been going on for about 6, so you can see that it's hard to boil things down. So Bill Nye, Ken Ham have this big debate. Ken Ham writes a book. Bill Nye writes a book, and Bill Nye's book is called Undeniable, and it deals with evolution and creation. So this weekend, I was traveling to the Redwoods, which are amazing. If you ever get a chance to come out to California, Redwoods are what you have to see. Absolutely gorgeous, old, majestic trees. On the way to the Redwoods, I noticed that Audible was having a sale. And so they had a buy one, get one free. And I'm part of the Audible Prime, so I get a whole bunch of free books every year and a whole bunch of extra stuff. It's great. And so what I did is I picked up a book and I was looking through which books I could get for free. And on this was Bill Nye's book. And normally I don't like to give money to these people. So when I got a copy of Richard Dawkins' book, I got it at Goodwill. So, I was paying Goodwill, not him. When I got Christopher Hitchens' book, again, got it at Goodwill. So there's a lot of books that I would look at it and say are heretical or very in error. I don't like to give money to the people who wrote them, but I also have to sometimes if I want to read the book. And so I grabbed this book. It was free. And my intentions were, if it was garbage, I was going to just return it. And it was garbage, but I'm going to keep it because it's a reference work for me. And so I've been reading it, and I got through about half the book today. And I made the decision that I'm going to go through chapter by chapter, and I'm going to respond to this book. And so that's what this video series is. This is continuing systematic theology for non-Christians. So if you are a non-Christian and you want to see what we believe, I will give you a good overview of the Christian beliefs in this area. But also, if you are a creationist or not, I'm going to give you a summary of what creation's all about, because here's my summary of the book. Bill Nye does not understand creationism. He doesn't. He doesn't understand where Christians stand. He doesn't understand what creationists believe. In fact, he just parodies us. That's what he does. He puts up a straw man and then he beats the trash out of it and said, "Look, I won the argument." That's not how you argue. That's not how you work. He's just wrong. Reading through the book has frustrated me because there's so many areas that I look at and I go, that's not what we believe. Now, maybe creationists, if you want to call them that, the movement of creation science didn't start until halfway through the 1900s. But the scientists who believed in creation, who believed in a providence, who did a lot of things designer-wise, they may have believed some things back in the day. But the fact is, creationists today don't believe those things and haven't believed those things for a long time. If you as a creationist do, then I'm going to adjust your perception of what creationism is. Now, before we get into the Creation Week, which is this series that I'm putting together here on the Janus Project, before we get into it, I do want to point out something as we get going. As you study creation and as you study out this topic, you need to understand that there are a lot of creationist arguments that are absolutely terrible to use. Okay, and I'm going to point some of those out. Bill Nye points some of those out in his book because he tears those ones down. Okay, so you need to understand that there are some arguments that as a creationist you should not use. Let me give you one, all right? Here's one illustration. We do not believe that God created all animals in the form they are today. That's not what we believe. Okay? Let me prove it to you. Let me prove that God did not create everything exactly as we see it today. How many people did God create? 2. What did they look like? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure they looked different than all of the different people you see today. The people you see today are Asian and black and white and Hispanic, and you go through the litany of different cultures and the looks that these different cultures have. Some have thicker eyebrows, some have thicker eyelids, some have thicker cheeks, some have bigger lips, some have slanty eyes, not slanty eyes, big eyes, little eyes, big flaring noses, not noses, big ears, small ears. Okay? Some can grow really good facial hair, some can't. That is an illustration of how Adam and Eve gave birth and reproduced for a while. Then the flood wiped out everybody, except for Noah and his family. The genetic variation all came from Noah and his family. So unless you're saying Noah and his family happened to match, one of every genetic type you see today, the fact is we as humans have the ability to adapt to our environment. Okay? You can selectively breed things in order to create new species. There were 2 dogs, as far as we can tell, on the ark. So all that variety, genetically speaking, of the dog kind comes from 2 dogs. So what we believe is that God created the forebears to everything that we have today. And he gave it the ability to adapt to its environment, and that's what we've seen throughout the ages. So that's where species come from. That's where new kinds come from. Not new kinds, but that's where new variation in kinds. That's where all these different looking creatures come from. is they come from a common ancestor. Now, the difference between creation and evolution is we believe the common ancestor is of the same kind. So all the dogs came from a common dog, all the birds came from a common bird, etc., etc. I'll give you one illustration of where you see this. There were some researchers who went to the island of the Galapagos and they went and looked at the finches. Okay, I've already covered this on a previous episode, but in case you don't want to go back and watch that one, let me repeat it here. And so as they did research on the Galapagos finches, what they found was that the Galapagos finches, their beaks are going to change based on climate, food, etc., etc. And so as their beaks adapt to what they need to do to survive, that is them adapting to their environment. And so they are evolving in the sense that they are changing into a new looking animal. Okay, still finches, still birds, but their beaks are changing. Now, this is what Darwin observed, and he extrapolated back to say, ooh, if all of these finches could come from a common finch, I bet all animals that have similarities came from a common ancestor, and all those things that has similarity came from a common ancestor. And you can go all the way back and assume, based on that extrapolation, that it came from a common ancestor. And so Darwin said, I believe that these species arise because they are all adapting to their environment, and it goes all the way back to a common ancestor. Okay? Now, the problem with this, from observational science, from empirical studies, is we have seen finch beaks adapting to their environment. Here's the downside. Once the environment changes back, the finches change back. So as environments are cyclical, so you have drought seasons and you have monsoon seasons and all the things that happen throughout the world. As the drought happens, the birds adapt to survive in the drought. And then as it swaps back, the birds will adapt back. And God has built that ability into these living creatures so they can adapt and come back. So as creationists, we do not believe that God created everything exactly as we see it today. We believe God created the forebears and gave them the ability to adapt to their environment. Okay? Go back to a previous video. I talked about epigenetics and things like that. Bill Nye talks about that in his book. Other people talk about it in other books that we'll talk about over the coming weeks. Just so you know, that is how we creationists believe. You've got a lot of parodying. You've got a lot of creationists who have not studied it deeply. And so if they were asked, did God create everything as you see it today? They might go, yeah, of course. But they're not actually thinking through that part of the argument. Okay? So in this introductory episode, we are looking at Bill Nye's undeniable, and we're saying it is very deniable, because he doesn't understand creation. He does not understand what the Christian view is. All right, guys, I hope you'll join me for this ride in the Janus Project as we explore Creation Week.